and karibu sana.
Good
for some Tuesday.
Yes, indeed. Good morning. It is the 15th of October. We are literally mid-month, Stanley. Can you believe that? I mean, just the other day we turned October and we were wishing each other happy new month. We're now in the mid and we are asking you where you're watching us from. Welcome to the program. My name is George Maringa.
Oh yes, today's panel, because today is going to be one very, very interesting day in front of, for the courts as well as for the Senate. We're going to be having a very interesting panel here. Friends and foes of Deputy President Gachagua.
Yes. And today we have James Gakuya, the Member of Parliament for Embakasi North. State of the Nation is the topic. We will also be joined by Daniel Manduku, the MP for Nyaribari Masaba, as well as Joe Mutambu, a former Member of Parliament for Mwingi Central. A heavy itinerary, Stanley, continues to be for the Senate. We did see yesterday how they voted to save the governor for Kericho County.
Yes.
And, you know, it was a reprieve for him. And a lot is being expected, especially for the upper house, if you call it, which has been told not to leave town to ensure that they expedite the issue of the impeachment of the deputy president.
Yes. That coming up on State of the Nation as of 8 a.m. George, always have a lot of innovations and research in high institutions. But then we rarely see this being materialized. Students always come up with some amazing research, but out here we don't see it being materialized. So that is what we're going to be discussing. Mount Kenya University is having an innovation week this particular week. We're going to be having stakeholders right here as of 8 a.m. just to discuss that. And for industry players as well as high institutions, how can they merge together to ensure that you as a student or even as a stakeholder, the government or an individual, an innovator, how can you be part of that?
And students always have great ideas.
Oh, yes. A look at the headlines, locally as well as regionally. Daily Nation, they're asking, will the courts save Gachagua? A very interesting question here, because that is what he has been eyeing. Even before he stepped into the National Assembly, he was already eyeing the courts. So that question is what Daily Nation is posing. On the Standard?
On the Standard, they say, of course, on matters till the Deputy President, it's a race against time. The Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, is a man under siege, and with each clock chime, the news tightens with options running out. His replacement is imminent, even as he stares at a life out of public office. Is he negotiating a way out? Are the courts going to put asunder what the politicians have crafted? Who will take the hot seat if Rigathi Gachagua packs his bags? The story is on pages 8 and 9. And you can see right there, they've chosen the picture of the dalliance, or we call it the former dalliance, between the president and his deputy.
And the fact that both of them are looking at their watches, and they go with that wordplay there, race against time.
Race against time, yes.
On the Star, smart people read the Star, ladies and gentlemen. They say big test for Ruto as Central resists Gachagua ouster.
They're saying the ground is becoming hot.
Yes.
The mountain is, you know, about to boil. And you've seen what has been happening, especially in the political front. Those who voted to the affirmative in the ouster motion, they've faced the wrath of the residents, the Wananchi. And Mount Kenya is rebelling against UDA-engineered impeachment. That is page 45. And we did see yesterday the MP for Imenti Central, Kirema Ngoshina, saying that if it is not Kindiki, then hawataki.
Okay,
and that's why they voted yes.
As one Gabriel Ogodo would say, things are boiling nicely.
Things are boiling very, very nicely.
Kwenye gazeti la Taifa leo, wanafunzi wetu leo, Kalonzo aiba nyota ya Raila. Tutarudi kueleza kwa nini anaiba nyota hiyo na ameiba aje. Taifa leo asubuhi hii.
Yes.
On People Daily?
On People Daily, it's about taking Mount Kenya bull by the horns. There will be the onslaught because Mwengi Mutusa is the mover of that motion.
Yes.
Among the witnesses will be Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja, the Secretary to the Cabinet Mercy Wenjao, as well as Andrew Mulwa. So Cabinet official has in her affidavit accused Gachagua of opposing the evacuation of Nairobi residents living within 30 meters of the Nairobi River. They say what is done in closed doors
will definitely come out
in public. We want to see what that evidence entails.
On business matters, this is a Business Daily. The headline today, they go with the Kenya Revenue Authority eyes crypto exchange tech linked to nail tax checks. This is a very interesting conversation. We'll be back to tell you the context of this and how initially when crypto came in, the government wasn't really upbeat about having them and really telling people this is crypto and you need to finance this.
And before you just go, there is this issue of Adani. We can see Ketraco to disclose Adani tariffs in 95 billion shillings power deals. So you can stand by to be able to read more on that, Stanley. Take us international.
Into Uganda now. Now Uganda has inked a 10 trillion Ugandan shillings. Don't be worried about these numbers. It's a new railway deal signed between Uganda as well as a Turkish firm. It is a big news in Uganda. This is the front page of the New Vision, as well as Daily Monitor. This firm is called Yapi Merkezi.
Yapi Merkezi.
Yes.
It's always how Africa chooses to focus elsewhere. It faces elsewhere for the infrastructure construction. And perhaps one day, local firms will be able to, take up these very huge projects in terms of the standard gauge railways, the airports. I mean, because Africa really needs this infrastructure.
Most definitely. I mean, it would be fantastic to hear that Uganda inked a deal with a South African firm, or even a Kenyan firm. That would be interesting.
Or even its own local firm.
Yes.
If we are able to produce these things.
I love how Daily Monitor has given you that particular map from Mombasa to Nairobi to Malaba, Uganda, then stretching all the way.
So all the way to Tororo, all the way to Kampala, Bihanga, Mbo, Mpondwe, then Mirama Hill.
Yes.
And it's where, the new SGR routes. By the way, the 10 trillion shillings is about how much? Kenya shillings?
The 350 million.
Billion.
352 billion Kenyan shillings.
Yeah, you can convert and see what amount was used in the Kenyan SGR. You can do your mathematics to see how much Uganda is saving or overspending on this, SGR.
Well, even take a look at the kilometers used in Kenya as well as for those in Uganda. They also break down that those different routes, the Malaba, Kampala, 272 kilometers.
1,700 kilometers of SGR is the distance they're going to develop.
Yes, so now broken down for that, the 1,700, 751, the northern route.
Yes.
Tororo, Gulu, all the way, and then 662 kilometers, that is the western route as well. That is a big news in Uganda, the SGR deal. And then now for Tanzania, yesterday we were talking about this as well. They were celebrating 25 years for the president, the former, the late.
The 25th anniversary of Mwalimu Julius Kabarangi Nyerere. And there is a lot. Samia Suluhu Hassan has said that they need to, focus on migogoro ya madaraka, ataka amani wakati wa uchaguzi. Samia kabidhi mwenge JWTZ kupandishwa tena mlima Kilimanjaro. A lot of politics, especially with the local government elections coming up next month.
Next month.
Yes.
That is also the big news in the front page of the Citizen.
Yes.
It says, Samia, let's not take local government elections for granted. And yesterday she was urging Tanzanians to register and vote in next month's local government elections, saying they will play a key role in shaping the nation's political landscape and setting the stage for the 2025 general election. Now,
and UNICEF is praising Tanzania on the birth registrations, as well as they are on matters health. Tanzania is eyeing robotic cancer surgery. Some developing, news, especially on that front, in mitigating and fighting cancer.
Now, interestingly, you'll realize if this was Kenya and we're talking about upcoming general elections, you'd realize that on the front pages, there's so much politics. But in Tanzania, they focus more on development.
On development.
Yes. It's just a mention that we're going to be having elections, but you'd rarely see a lot of politics herein. That is what is on this front page
of Citizen.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Let's take a look at the weather in different parts of the country. And just realized I didn't load all of them, but then you can start off with let's say Nairobi and see.
It is 6:11 a.m. It's now that traffic is beginning to build up just shortly, even as Kenyans, attempt to move from place to place as they are trying to get to various places. It is said that when it is mid-month, you'll see a few, changes in the traffic patterns. But
yes.
Let's check out the weather.
So on the weather, 15 degrees Celsius right now. That is in Nairobi. And getting into, it might be raining, by the way, as of the afternoon. So be keen on that. 30% precipitation, thunderstorms as well. So leo weka mwavuli yako karibu na wewe.
Kama unataka kuona mambo ya impeachment kwa Senate, have your own umbrella well at it.
Most definitely. Yeah. That is in Nairobi. Let's take a look at another place.
Yes.
In Mombasa. County 001.
24 degrees. Celsius, it feels like at 24 is what the weather forecast is saying, with highs of 30 and lows of 23 degrees. There is no chance of precipitation, but it's mostly going to be sunny and with highs of, as you've seen, 30 degrees all the way, especially at between 12 and 1 p.m. is when it's going to be hot, with the temperatures coming down from 29 from 2 p.m. all the way into the night.
Ni weather unatembea na vest.
The vest.
In Kericho, things were definitely boiling nicely yesterday. The political temperatures in Kericho were definitely high yesterday as the governor was saved by the senators. Today, it's going to be quite wet. It's going to be a wet weather.
Yeah.
Highs of 22. Yes.
And lows of 14.
Let's take a look at the precipitation and just see if you're in Kericho and its environs. 5.1 millimeters. Inamaanisha kutakuwa na mvua leo. So usiseme hatuko kuona. Va gumboots, va jacket, va something very, very warm.
Tumekuona.
Yes, because you're definitely going to be needing it in Kericho. Finally, let's take a look at tuangalie wapi Vihiga.
Vihiga, yeah.
In the western region. And see 17. It's cloudy right now.
3 degrees Celsius, higher.
Yes.
A stronghold of someone we know somewhere. And, there is currently 70% of, chance of rain.
Yes, meaning it's actually raining now.
Yeah, it's actually raining. And it's highs of 26, lows of 17. And the precipitation for the entire period of the day is 3.8 millimeters, just lower than Kericho. But still, don't shy away from carrying your umbrella.
Most definitely.
And the better part of the morning, so you'll only have some, warm area, dry period from 11 to 2 p.m. And then the rains start again. From 3 p.m.
That is how the weather is looking like, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a look at the diary. And today is definitely going to be a packed day in matters courts particularly. So first off, on our news diary, the first item there, Governor Kawira Mwangaza, that is the Meru governor, so Justice Bahati Mwamuye is today expected to issue a ruling date on the case where Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza has pleaded with the court to grant her orders allowing her to continue serving the people of Meru County. So today, Justice Bahati is going to set a ruling date for that particular mention. It came up last week and he postponed it to this particular date. So we expect to see that. And speaking of the whole matters of impeachments, on the next page of our news diary, well, even as we also get into the new full prices today, also we do expect the courts to be probably ruling in favor of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, but then just make a mention of that to the whole petitions to stop the Senate trials scheduled for tomorrow and Thursday. And then, effective today, till the November 14th, Super Petrol will be retailing at 180 Kenyan shillings, diesel at 168 Kenyan shillings, and kerosene at 151 Kenyan shillings. That is in Nairobi. It was a whole drop. This was released yesterday by
the highest
EPRA.
Drop since 2020.
Wow.
And we did see a lot of politicians, the political class, taking to social media to upload this recent drop and, of course, to what they are leading. Next.
To the next page. Yes, today is White Cane Day. So this particular day symbolizes the white cane's importance in blind and low vision. This day aims to educate people across the nation about blindness. Today we're going to be having a whole kind of meeting between different stakeholders of visually impaired in Mount Kenya University, where the theme is promoting independence and inclusion. That is just a nutshell of what to expect in our news diary, in our subsequent bulletins, as well as our digital platforms.
Yeah, I can see Apollo Kamau is saying, our reporter, political affairs reporter, he says a 3-judge bench to hear Gachagua's case today. The time is yet to be confirmed. What you had just mentioned earlier about the case to stop the impeachment proceedings from taking place. You can stand by for that as well.
Yes. To Today in History.
Today in History. On October 15th, 1993, Nelson Mandela, leader of the African National Congress, and South African President F.W. de Klerk were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. This recognition highlighted their efforts to end apartheid and move South Africa towards a more democratic society. Their collaboration paved the way for significant changes in the country, ultimately leading to Mandela becoming South Africa's first black president in 1994.
Right, from 1994, we come back to 2024, and now let's get into the papers.
Absolutely. Welcome back. You're watching the Morning Cafe on the dailies. The headline going, will the courts save Deputy President Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua? He's a man under siege, and the Deputy President Gachagua has filed 26 cases in a bid to block the impeachment proceedings against him. And today he hopes that the courts will rule in his favor and stop the Senate trial scheduled for tomorrow and Thursday. That you can find on page 4 in details. But again, also on matters Mpox, Kenya recorded its first Mpox death as new cases hit 13, and the National Public Health Laboratory has received 238 samples, 13 positives and 225 negative cases, and the different strains of the Mpox diseases and more details you can find on page 2 of the Daily Nation.
Yes. Daily Nation continues with its special report about the cast of the deputies. It started about last week there, and we have this on page 7, which has a very, very kind of a harsh, but a very interesting headline on page 7. They say, the man with a sharp tongue.
And Gachagua's era was seeking to create a power base where Ruto had crowned himself the unchallenged kingpin.
Yes.
And we'll be conversing that with my guests this morning on matters State of the Nation.
On page 6, they talk about Mutai, that is a Kericho governor, who survived on a technicality. So apparently, 31 members of the County Assembly of Kericho signed in favor of this particular motion to impeach the governor. But apparently, they were supposed to be 32 to meet the threshold.
Yes.
So they just needed one MCA to so that this particular motion can meet the threshold. I'm wondering, all this time they were preparing all this, they had more than 20 plus sets of evidence. They did not do the math and see, we need just one person. We need just one MCA to be on our side. Do you epukane na hii technicality?
Let me tell you, when you get to the Senate, because the Senate sits as a trial chamber, you get to see a lot of things.
And particularly on the plenary.
Yes, on the plenary, you get to see a lot of things. And it's been an eye-opening, occasion for Kenyans every time the impeachment happens. Remember the last time, and it's what the guests last night on the Daily Report was saying, the last time Kayura Mwangaza was served on matters, gender. This time that didn't feature, and she was impeached. So a lot really usually plays on matters impeachment, and especially this time that we have a lot to deal with the first impeachment of a deputy president in this constitution. We wait to see what they will poke.
And this could just be a curtain raiser, this particular impeachment hearing that happened yesterday would be a curtain raiser for what is going to be happening tomorrow as well as Thursday.
Yes.
Impeachment hearing of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. So keep it right here at your home of Untold Stories. we'll be breaking it down just for you to understand what this means and how it's going to be consequential even for future impeachments for DP as well as a deputy president. Other headlines on Daily Nation before we cross over?
On the Daily Nation also, there's talking about MPs have questions the quote-unquote illegal 6.7 billion shillings civil servants medical cover deal. So the MPs have questioned the legality of the government's extension of the 6.7 billion comprehensive medical insurance cover for civil servants, saying it violates the Social Health Insurance Act. That you can find on the Daily Nation. To close on the Daily Nation, Stanley?
Yes, still on the back page. That story is on the back page. On the top scroll of the back page, they still talk about members of the National Assembly. They say counties staring at cash crisis. The National Assembly Committee rejects a Senate proposal to give the 47 devolved units 400 billion cash shillings as shareable revenue. So in context, the counties might be staring at a cash crunch after National Assembly rejected that Senate's amendment to the Division of Revenue bill. And we wait to see how they also call it a stalemate. Both houses to appoint members of a mediation committee to agree on a version of the bill within 30 days. And this cash crisis is going to really affect major installations
and operations,
as well as health majorly. So something to look forward to. That is the Daily Nation for you this morning on the Standard.
The race against time.
Yes.
And they're both, the two gentlemen, the president and his deputy, have been looking at their watches in that, headline. They're saying, that story you will get on pages 8 and 9. And so today, the timeline, basically, the Standard proceeds to give you just a short timeline. The High Court is expected to pronounce itself on whether the process goes on or not. That is the issue of the Speaker of the Senate rules that the Parliament cannot be injected and that the preliminary objection on court orders does not stop the impeachment hearing already in the Senate, even as that development, even as the court is expected to schedule it. So, to have that process, the hearing and to pronounce itself, with the Speaker of the Senate also acting as the head of that upper house, saying that whatever the High Court is supposed to do will not really matter. So at the end of the day, Kenyans will be treated to another, battle of legal terminologies. And every time you can be sure that the law is very clear.
Yes.
But it is also very unclear at some point. Stanley, on Wednesday, what do you expect?
On Wednesday, the Senate will be starting to listen to the case with the National Assembly prosecuting its impeachment. And then the following day, on Thursday, Gachagua will defend himself and the votes will take place after. So President Ruto to consider replacement should his deputy be sent home. And this Take a look at these events. And then when you look at the 20th of this month, which is Mashujaa Day, now let's say the following day, where now the celebrations will be happening, chances are on Mashujaa Day, we might just have someone else.
We might just have someone else. How will even if we will not have, so what will the protocol team do?
Yes.
Who will grace that event? It's usually a day of Kenyans to see, whereas they're celebrating the heroes, to see the grandiosity of government. Who arrives at what time? How do they arrive? Who is present? Who is absent?
Who says what?
And who says what?
That is the front page of the Standard. Other stories here. They also go with error that saw Kericho governor walk free. Governor's defense told Senate the 2/3 threshold had not been met when the Assembly impeached him. In fact, senators agreed with ending the process of impeachment.
Just a small technicality that costed, at the end of the day, the lawyers will still have to be paid. And so, that's a story you can find on page 4. Now, the OGX are at pain as the state ordered to settle people in Eastern Mau. And, that they say the decision contravenes the African High Court ruling, the African court ruling in favor of the indigenous tribe that has never been implemented. And Nakuru court directed that residents be settled in 35,300 hectares of land. The Ogieks, of course, remain a people that still seek to be resettled in this country.
There's a very interesting story on page 3, which I haven't seen in other dailies. They say battle to outlaw the hangman presses on. Convicts sent to gallows aren't executed due to reluctance to terminate human life. And efforts to abolish the death penalty in Kenya are underway through the Penal Code Amendment Bill.
Yes, and that is the picture they use is that Justice John Mativo he makes his presentation during an event to mark the World Day Against Death Penalty yesterday. The campaign to have Kenya completely abolish the death penalty is gaining momentum.
Yes, it's a conversation that at the moment we wait to see how it's going to be. That is a standard for you.
And they also say, still on Adani, whenever you mention Adani, it's an interesting topic. Apparently, the Adani's covert deal with the state began last year. That is what the court was told. David Ndi, Kenya Kwanza, according to the Standard, Kenya Kwanza economic advisor, is named as one of the persons who have been aware of the Adani JKIA deal.
Okay, okay. On the Star, big test for Ruto as Central resists Gachagua ouster.
Yes.
Say Mount Kenya rebelling against UDA engineered impeachment is on pages 4 and 5.
Yeah.
They contrast the photos of number 1 as well as number 2 there. But other conversations apart from Gachagua, on the right scroll, Kitengela 4, family haunted by missing son. These people have been looking for their kin for 4 years with no fruits. Jack Anyango is the person missing. Something else they talk about, 2 on death row, 130 years instead. I think it was similar to what we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
And something else in matters health, vaccines use could reduce antibiotics use. Today's copy of The Star is free, and insert is the pullout of my gov. Yes.
Indeed.
That is the Star for you.
Absolutely.
Gazeti la Taifa Leo, George.
Kalonzo aiba nyota ya Raila, upinzani. Musyoka ajitwika wajibu wa kiongozi wa upinzani. Akitazamiwa kuwa mtetezi wa wanyonge, anapinga vikali kutimuliwa kwa Gachagua, mpango wa Adani, bima ya SHA na mfumo wa ufadhili vyuoni. Je, atatoshea katika viatu vya Raila? Ukurasa wa pili ndipo ambapo utapata taarifa hiyo kikamilifu. Is he the new official leader of opposition? This was a role that previously, was occupied by Raila Odinga.
Vidokezo vingine kwenye gazeti hili ambavyo baadhi ya vidokezo tumeangazia. Kidokezo kimoja pale ulikuwa unazungumzia awali. Nasema Koome ateua jopo kwa kesi za Gachagua, ateua majaji 3 kuamua kesi za kupinga naibu wa rais kutimuliwa mamlakani. Miongoni mwa majaji hao ni jaji ambaye anaitwa Mrima. Sijui kama waliamua kuguza Mrima mwenyewe, lakini ni jaji tu.
Ni jaji tu, Justice Mrima.
Hivyo ndio baadhi ya vidokezo ambavyo viko kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo. We've taken a look at a number of them. People daily go a different angle on this story.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And, on that issue. But again, on page 3, the People Daily is saying the Supreme Court Judge, Lenaola, has been drawn into keen property dispute. That is page 3, where you can find more details on that inheritance issue. And, on whether when you're made an administrator of the estate, do you get really to inherit? And that is, of course, a topic, I picked from Beatrice Elachi yesterday, where she was saying that when you're made an administrator, and it's one of the issues, of course, before the Senate, whether when you're made an administrator, do you directly benefit or not? And the law on that one, we wait to see what also the judiciary, through the courts, says and pronounces itself.
Oh, yes. Another conversation that other dailies have not gone with, and People Daily has over the weeks been talking about the AFCON billions and how they were stolen. And actually, allegedly, they say Ruto summons top sports officials over AFCON billions. This was the very top strip of People Daily.
People Daily.
Yes.
Yes.
I think these are the conversations. We've taken a look at them, and in depth we'll be taking a look at them on the State of the Nation.
State of the Nation just coming up shortly. Our guests are already here. That State of the Nation conversation coming up in just a short while.
And finally, Business Daily, kabla tuingie kwenye caricature. Secretary eyes crypto exchange TechLink to nail tax cheats. So kama uko katika hii biashara ya crypto, chunga sana. Strategy to nab tax dodgers in the secretive market. It's a platform attractive to fraud and money laundering deals.
Crypto, it's always shrouded in mystery.
We wait to see how this is going to be. Another conversation you're talking about here.
The Ketraco to disclose the Adani tariffs in the 95 billion shillings power deals. And, this Adani, we've had it in the JKA deal. There's an argument that it's also in the energy sector. And then now it's also coming to the hospital, the SHA. So we wait to see how all this, plays out, especially on matters Adani. And who is Adani even in the first place?
Yes.
Is it shrouded in more mystery?
That is a business daily. You can look at that. Let's take a look at the cartoons and see.
Yeah.
Cartoonists always have one thing. Okay, kama Bwana Director unaweza tusaidia na some of these cartoons. Yes, this is the standard.
Yeah.
Gamzo stick.
Says, I am the people's president. Who do you allude is that, Stanley? Who do you think
this
that is?
This is now the AUC chair candidate,
Yes.
Raila Odinga. And the first frame is him saying the people's president. And for the second frame, now they have him in full. And his true colors is a standard for you. On the next one, in the People Daily, leo wameamua wafinye.
Wafinye kabisa. Yoruna is what us know after the airport take over all matatu stages in the breath of, revamping our infrastructure.
Yes.
It is not only, Adani should not apparently just handle the airport. He should also come and handle the matatu stages conversation.
Makes sense, though.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Makes so much sense.
Yes. This is Daily Nation. Daily Nation now decided to go hash on it.
Yeah.
They have unaanga vinakuga na mama fua na mjadi na ile leso ile. Sasa tuko na baba fua katika hiyo besheni, and he's cleaning this gentleman who cartoonists have been using as Adani. And kwa hiyo besheni kuna Ketraco JKIA, and I make sure Adani is very, very clean.
Yes, amesema hiyo deal ya JKA na Ketraco iko tu sawa.
Yes. Real quick, we take a look at the traffic so that you know how things are.
Yes.
Major roads and the bottlenecks that unafaa uepukane nazo. Kama ulikuwa umepanga kwenda kamkutano mahali, tuanze na, yes, this is one of the bottlenecks. Now this is Thika Road, heading to town, Muranga Road as well as Forest Road, na hii ni Kiambu Road. Mkifika hapo katikati ya Muthaiga roundabout, traffic inaanza.
Yes. Ukale kabisa.
Be keen on that one. Let's take a look at another road. Should be Jogoo Road.
Jogoo Road. Another culprit as always.
Yes, you can see bits and pieces on Makadara all the way to Jogoo Road.
Langata Road is also looking a bit red down here at the intersection of Lusaka Road and Langata Road. Also coming through the other side of Mombasa Road.
Mombasa Road iko nywe kabisa.
Iko nywe kabisa.
Southern Bypass nayo iko nywe nayo kabisa. Hakuna mengi ya kusimulia this particular morning. Ngong Road pia iko salama kabisa. That is how things are looking like on traffic.
Yes.
Rest of the nation coming up.
Absolutely. We discuss a lot of issues. We're seeing what the Senate has to do in terms of its itinerary this week. Our guests are already here. You can stand by for that conversation on matters state of the nation. Just to let you know who is on set, James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North, is already here, as well as Daniel Manduku, MP for Nyaribari Masaba. Jomo Tambu, former MP Mwingi Central, will also be joining us. Do stand by for that in-depth conversation on the state of the nation.
Send them back.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. we dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa. Ng'ombe
Cafe with me, George Maringa. Time now for State of the Nation, and our guests are already here in studio. The panel made up of legislators. I'll begin to my immediate right is Daniel Manduku, Member of Parliament, Nyaribari Masaba. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Karibu sana.
Viewers.
Indeed. Joe Mutambu, former MP, Mwingi Central. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa.
Asante.
And finally, last but not least, James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And I'll begin with you, Mheshimiwa Daniel. When you look at the occurrences that happened in the National Assembly last week, you sit in that house, you participated in that process, you witnessed what happened as well. From where you sit, did the National Assembly uphold the Constitution in what members of Parliament swore to protect?
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that the impeachment of the Deputy President is contemplated in our Constitution, Articles, I think, 150, read together with Articles 145 and 146.
Yes.
And let me say that the National Assembly is not the trial chamber. And so, if allegations are brought to the National Assembly, members interrogate them on face value, what the lawyers call prima facie. And based on that, the National Assembly was convinced to a vote of 282 to 44 that the issues raised in that impeachment motion was substantial enough to be taken to the next stage, which is the Senate, which is a real trial chamber. And so, in as far as we are concerned, and based on the evidence that was adduced before the National Assembly on that day, we felt that the 11 grounds were sufficient for the Deputy President to be impeached at the National Assembly and thereafter face the real trial at the Senate. But as I've always said, the Deputy President still has lifelines. The first lifeline is the Senate, and the second lifeline is the judiciary, our courts of law. And so, yes, we did the right thing. Thank you. But also, remember, and I said it here, that we may argue until tomorrow, but the impeachment process is purely a political process. We are politicians, and politicians are there to, one, guard the interests of the nation, and second, guard the interests of the party. So our party, the Orange Democratic Movement, agreed that we shall vote to impeach the Deputy President based on a party agreement. Mheshimiwa, Joe, before you come to you, let's listen and see what the options that, Deputy President Gachagua has, even as the court says the court will be able to pronounce itself today, even as the Speaker Amason Kingi says that those court issues will not prevent them from continuing with the agenda.
In what appears to be clinching his hopes on the judiciary, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua wants the courts to stop the debate in his impeachment motion at the Senate this week. Among his arguments being the Constitution of Parliament, which he is faulting.
281.
Chief Justice Martha Koome has constituted a 3-judge bench to hear the matter after a ruling of the court last week. The 3 judges, Justice Eric Ogola, Justice Anthony Murima, and Lady Justice Dr. Frida Mugambi, will hear the 6 petitions filed by DP Gachagua's legal team. His legal team, led by senior counsel Paul Muite, was on Monday trying to put up a case in an attempt to stop the impeachment of the second in command. Gachagua's legal team argued that the allegations backed by 282 members of the National Assembly on Tuesday last week were based on hearsay and lies.
In this very weighty matter of impeachment of the Deputy President was in this case a sham.
Gachagua is questioning the credibility of the public participation exercise that he says was shambolic and did not meet the constitutional threshold.
Without any doubt whatsoever, the resolution of the National Assembly crystallized the rightness for this court's intervention.
Gachagua alleges MPs were coerced into passing the motion, insisting the charges should focus on constitutional issues, not claims of undermining the president. The Deputy President further accuses the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula and Uasin Gishu woman representative Gladys Bose of taking sides in the impeachment process even before the motion was tabled in Parliament.
The people of Kenya thought the right to a fair trial is so fundamental that they say it is not to be limited.
The respondents in the case, who include the National Assembly, Speaker of the National Assembly, the Senate, and the Speaker of the Senate, had asked the court to strike out the petition, arguing that the DP is forum shopping.
My submission is that forum shopping takes place when you file an identical petition seeking the identical relief.
The court denied the petition and directed the hearing to proceed as directed on Friday. Senate will debate the matter on Wednesday and Thursday this week, where Gachagua will defend himself. Witnesses are scheduled to appear before the upper house during the impeachment hearing. The witnesses include the Secretary to the Cabinet, Mercy Wanjau, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja, and former KEMSA Acting CEO Andrew Mulwa. Sources, however, indicate that the family of Gachagua's late brother, Nderitu Gachagua, might also testify in the impeachment motion. In his defense, DP Gachagua claimed that some of the properties in question were owned by the former Nyeri governor who had written a will. Some members of the National Assembly have also been listed as possible witnesses.
Whether in light of the court order, if any, the Senate is able to proceed with the hearing of the proposed removal from office by impeachment.
So far, the clerk of the National Assembly and the legal team of DP Gachagua have supplied evidence to the clerk of the Senate ahead of the hearing of the impeachment motion Wednesday. Joash Onsare, TV 47, Nairobi.
Mheshimiwa, you've seen the legal options and you're watching closely and keenly. When you look at all these issues surrounding the impeachment of the Deputy President, the House is saying it is a political process and what they did was in their constitutional right. But then the Senate has a huge task and the courts are yet to pronounce themselves. But the Speaker has said that notwithstanding, they will still continue. As a former legislator, what do you make of all this?
Constitutional rights and political rights, those are two different things. And one is not the law. The other is.
Okay.
Political opinion is not a law. It isn't. Constitution is the law. We have to differentiate that. And from where I sit, I agree with Mheshimiwa Maduku that they were doing a political process, which in real sense, if you go deep and analyze and look at this matter, you'll see that the members, they did not vote following the law. No.
Okay.
Mheshimiwa has alluded to some sections or articles of the Constitution.
Yes.
And those articles are very clear on the grounds and how to impeach a deputy president. Politically speaking, president has gotten rid of his deputy. And what the president is doing is using his powers to send him home. He's not using the law. He's using his powers, his riches, what he can get to get rid of Gachagua. That is what the president is doing. And that include talking to the members, having the party members who are not aligned to him forward in his direction, having the leaders of the political parties join him to get the numbers, not to get the reasons, to get the numbers to remove Gachagua. And this is what president has done cleverly. And he has succeeded politically. Now we are waiting to see how the law will be interpreted. And if that interpretation goes to the favor of Mr. Gachagua, what will remain on the faces of all these 281 MPs, including the president? It's just egg, what do you call it?
Egg on the face.
Or egg on their faces.
Yes.
There will be nothing more. Because I imagine a politician or an elected leader who stands for the nation, because the moment you sit in that parliament, you don't sit there because you are a member from Kitutu, I don't know, from Bakasi or from Mwingi Central. You sit there as a national leader to deliberate and to discuss issues of national, this country, Kenya, yes. Right? But if they also, it is fit to send Gachagua home without or with disrespect of the law, then how will Kenyans look at these MPs and see them? They will see people who did not give or respect the rule of law, and that's it. And they will live with that for the rest of their lives, these members. It's an unfortunate thing. But if I was in parliament, I would not vote until I get the basis of the all 11 accusations or 11 charges, one by one. I will take one, go through it, get the witnesses for this, and get the evidence. Then I make my decision.
Okay.
But what did we do? It was a wholesale thing. That Gachagua has been this and this and this, so please go home. It was nothing like that. But what I want to tell Kenya, and maybe I'll say before we finish this show.
Yes.
The impeachment of Gachagua is not what we are seeing. There are other things behind which Kenyans are being taken or are being told, be busy fighting this issue of Gachagua, while other things are happening in our country.
Such as other things?
There are so many. I'll give you a list.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you a list of what is happening so that Kenyans get to understand where we are.
Okay.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Gakuya, the public participation, when Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua went on TV last week on Monday, he said he did not have an opportunity to present his case before the people, and that's why he defended himself in a manner to allude that even his political friends have argued that indeed he did not have the chance. So the public participation should have been, both the case should have been put before the parliament, and then the deputy president defends himself, and then that goes to for public participation. It has been a point of concern in different quarters. What do you make of that process that led to the voting in the National Assembly?
Thank you very much. Allow me to salute viewers wherever they are watching us from this morning.
Yes.
And coming to the matter, let me say that the procedure is simple. That in case you want me to determine whether this matter is admissible or not, then there has to be evidence of the case that I will assess. So the accused should have given a room to put his case, and then out of that particular defense, then the judgment can be done. Because you cannot move to the public first. Ask the public to give you opinion. And they have not even studied, and the accused has not even defended himself. So that particular point itself, it gives you a clear anomaly of a procedure. Because one thing I believe that, in fact, every single Kenyan voter has a right to determine in what we call public participation. I think anybody who would like to have a clear and well-addressed public participation should also give public civic education on the subject. Then, when he moves to vote, he casts a vote out of understanding. But you can't give me a form, tell me to say yes or no. I have not even heard the accused. I have not even heard the accuser. So how do you tell me to determine whether I cast a vote to say this man has to go home or not? I think first let the procedure, and that's how it should be. Because the public should understand the subject matter first and understand it very well. So you, as the person who is the accuser, must explain to the public the reasons to accuse the person and allow the person also to defend himself. So that if I, as the public, comes now in to cast my vote, I'll cast my vote out of that evidence that I have weighed both sides. But here, nothing you are telling me, say yes or no, and this is the form.
See, in that public participation, Kenyans actually even continued to draft, answer a question that was not there, and they even, set another question. It felt like a referendum moment.
Mheshimiwa Gakuya, who is my friend, is arguing very well. But his argument is based on the fact that public participation ought to be the way he's arguing. But then here we're dealing with a situation where we don't have a law that guides public participation. We don't have a threshold. We don't have a precedent. And so this matter is best left to be interpreted by the courts. And I think the courts will be setting a new area of jurisprudence if they guide us properly on how to deal with public participation, especially insofar as impeaching a very high officer like the deputy president is concerned. But having said that, and Mheshimiwa Gachagua knows very well that this is politics. And I have always said that here is a case where the boss does not want to work with the deputy. It becomes very difficult for you as a deputy to keep hanging on to the tails, coattails of your boss that I must work with you. Never mind, they were elected on the same ticket. But what the boss is telling him is that, hey, my friend, I don't want to work with you. And so we can argue about public participation, we can argue about parliamentary impeachment, we can argue about the courts, but the bottom line is that the deputy president's die was cast. And it is time that he bites the bullet and realizes that his boss does not want to work with him. Even if the courts rule otherwise, the law allows that the same motion be brought back to the National Assembly within 6 months. And so even if there's something that goes wrong and the courts rule otherwise, and even give a way forward on the public participation, the president is capable of doing it again. And within 6 months, it will now come back and the same 282 members will still vote to impeach him.
Mheshimiwa Joe, when you look at, I mean, the courts could pronounce themselves afterwards, but there is also the issue of gazetting the possible replacement shortly after Senate makes its vote. There is Mashujaa Day coming up. There is talk of we could be having a new one by then, if impeached. Where would this then leave the DP in terms of his legal options if, let's assume, he's ousted?
You know, we've been to this forum, and we advised Gachagua. The best thing for him to do is to resign, as opposed to following all these channels. My thinking is that Gachagua wants to prove a point, all right? Which may be very expensive and costly for him, politically.
Okay.
What will happen with Gachagua, even if the court upholds or disagrees with Parliament, for that matter? Parliament is Senate and the National Assembly. If the court disagrees with their opinion, Gachagua will remain a shell deputy president. He will have no influence, he will have no powers, he will have nothing, only bodyguards and an office and 2-3 cars, but with no influence whatsoever. A sub-chief will be more powerful than our current DP. Because a sub-chief can have influence to go to the chief and tell him, my boss, ile mahindi ya molio, gorogoro mbili wache ende hii sublocation. He will be able to do that, sub-chief. But Gachagua will be able to do nothing with this government because shots are called by its boss and they are not in terms.
Okay.
What president could have done is to look at the mood of the nation, the feeling of the people who elected him, and stand tall and say, this is my deputy, we are not in agreement, but because I don't want to antagonize this country, I don't want to bring this tribe against that tribe to start fighting, I don't want this party against this party to start fighting, I will let my deputy stay. The way Uhuru Kenyatta did. Kenyatta disagreed with Ruto. Actually, 2 years after election of 2017, if I'm not wrong, right? Or even 1 year. 1 year. And Uhuru stomached Ruto entire 4 years. And the country was at peace, despite that there was no working relationship or good relationship between the two. So this is what Ruto could have done to avoid any chaos which may arise. Because I am not seeing the Mount Kenya nation. You know, we may say these are just a few Kikuyus making noise there and there, but I will not call them few Kikuyus. These are people who have feelings and who believe that they are being shortchanged because that was not the agreement.
Okay.
And you see, the moment you elect a leader, he becomes a leader of everyone. That is why you see that Madugu never employed Gachagua. He never voted for him. ODM never voted for Gachagua. But today, ODM are on the line firing him. So you can imagine somebody who never employed you firing you.
Yeah.
Because politically, the moment a person has been elected, he becomes your property.
Your property.
He becomes your leader. So you can do whatever you wish with him, whether you elected him or not. And even him, he can do whatever you want to do with you, whether you voted him in or not.
I can see Mheshimiwa Gachagua is simmering. So let's take a short break as you also ruminate on what you've started about. The discussion is just getting started right here on Morning Cafe. We are back in a few minutes after this short commercial break. Do stay with us.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2. What position were you? Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side. We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Welcome back. You're watching The Morning Cafe with my guest here in studio as we discuss State of the Nation, Honorable Daniel Manduku, Member of Parliament Nyaribari Masaba, Joe Mutambu, former MP Mwingi Central, and James Gachagua, MP for Embakasi North. Mheshimiwa Gachagua, so should the DP have taken the council for resignation, the advice for resignation, and as it stands now, would he still have a window to resign?
Let me say, first and foremost, that a resignation is an individual feeling and an individual decision. And to a position like the one His Excellency, the Deputy President, is holding, I think even before making such a pronunciation, he must consult widely. And he has to move by the wishes of majority.
Okay.
And I think where I sit is that majority of the opinion fight this battle to the end. You might try to safeguard tomorrow, because the worst that this scenario can take you into is to give you a terminal position where you may not contest in the future, or where you cannot be able to engage into what we call public office. But sometimes it comes a time when one has to make a choice whether to fight. Because at this point in time, the supporters of Gachagua are really in disarray saying, yes, if you try to quit, then you are saving us. Then fight the battle to the end. Let us die if the process will give us the final nail to death. And I don't think that, in fact, at this point in time, the process of this kind, because it is well calculated politically, then it must push you and threaten you to quit when there is always an option. And I think it is important to allow these three institutions, because here we have a National Assembly which has already casted its votes. Then we have the Senate, which the Speaker has pronounced himself very well that despite that the court may serve a court order, the Senate will still proceed. Then my big question is, where does the law cut on double edge? Because if the Senate will say that the independent judiciary having pronounced itself to what we call a suspension of the process, then it can't stop. Then the big question is, these offices, most of them are sworn in, like the head of state is being sworn in by the Chief Justice. So at what point do you think even you are the president, we will pass the test to swear in? Who will swear them in? If you have to ignore a judicial process and you ignore an order of the court, at what point do you think the judiciary will come into and then actualize your process? I think here we need to respect the jurisdictions of every arm. And that's why we have those three levels, the executive, then the judiciary, and the parliament. And I think that we should respect the rule of law. We cannot stand to say, we ignore an order. If today the court gives a particular order, we say, I will just proceed. It means that particular judiciary is not respected at some point. And at the same time, it means the policies that we make, the judiciary have no room to interpret those policies. And I think the best thing for us to have a constitution that we will stand, and we will stand for what we call rule of law, is to respect the constitution. And the constitution is very clear that the judiciary has their mandate, the parliament has their mandate, and the executive have their mandate. And by the virtue of not respecting either arm of this government, it means then we are moving to the jungle route. And this is a place that we cannot allow the country to be. This country is so much ahead democratically, and we need to see a democratic space. And this is where we say everybody has a right to be heard. And I think if your appeal can be politicized and being witch-hunted to a route that politically you'll be hammered to die, then you want to say that, in fact, the safety net, if the court finds it not correct for you to be exited on that way, the interest of the public cannot find a room. I think this country is a country of rule of law. It's a country which respects the constitution. And I think what we should do is all of us to be at the one that roof, and nobody is above the roof of the constitution. And we need to see, going forward, courts being respected, pronouncement of the court being respected. Otherwise, if that's not going to be the case, it means we are going back to the dark days where the jungle is the core of the shot.
Okay. We'll come to you, but Mheshimiwa Joe, when you look at this whole thing of the impeachment and why there is sort of misunderstanding in several quarters, are we handling, whereas laws are created or they come because of circumstances that befall a nation, say how we saw the issue of public participation interpreted by the judiciary, and they said that, how public participation can happen, whereas it's not as conclusive as Mheshimiwa is saying here. The fact that we are in this situation, the first of its kind, are we handling it in a manner that we ought to have handled it, whereas it has not happened before, that we can say the first impeachment went like this? So we have no basis as a country to say that this is the benchmark we should follow.
The benchmark is already set in the Constitution. Okay. We cannot, and ignorance is not a defense. Okay. We cannot be ignorant to the fact of our laws.
We cannot say it's not an excuse.
We got this constitution in 2010. How many years today?
14.
And it has been implemented, right? We've been having counties. Counties cannot spend even a shilling without going to public participation, right? Even a member of parliament, he gets CDF. He cannot buy a cup of tea without going to public participation. So it cannot be when it is good for us, we are implementing, and now when it comes now to our disadvantage, then we come and say, no, there is vacuum. The Constitution does not tell us how to deal with public participation. But I can bet you, All the governors, 47 of them, they will tell you we have taken our budget to public participation. And we see those forums every day. Whenever budget is being passed by counties, they take it to the people. What is it that you want? In my constituency, once I get a CDF, or before even I get the CDF, I go to the people, I ask them, what do you want? They tell me we want 2 classrooms, we want the chief's office, we want this, we want that, and that is what is implemented. So we cannot say it is not there. It is there. What is happening is just ignorant of it. We are ignoring it in totality to suit what we want to do. That is exactly what is happening in our country. And that is where the rain starts beating us. Okay. The moment we start ignoring our set of laws which we have, and we say, no, this one does not tell us, this is not explicit, this is not. The law speaks louder. And when you are told go and do public participation, is to get the opinion of the people, because it is the people who want the government. It is the people who want the presidency. It is the people who want the members of parliament. It is the people who want everything in this country. And if they don't want this, you have to listen to them. But we are doing it in disregard of the feeling and the opinion of the public. That is where we are going wrong. If we could listen to what people are saying, we would not have this. If President Ruto listened to what Kenyans were saying, and I said it in this forum, and I was bashed everywhere, I said, try to pass this bill. This is the time when Kenyans will wake up, and they will know the test of a bad leadership. And it happened. Okay. Uhuru ignored. And some of my friends who are in UDA, they were telling me, you know, Matambu, we are the government, and we can do whatever we want. Nobody will. My friend, when the Gen Z woke up, they realized there is another whip somewhere. There are other people who can whip. All right? The same thing I'm telling them today. They are saying we have the numbers. The president does not want this deputy president. But the moment he was elected with you brought him to us, and we voted him in. Our choice or our voice is also equally important to know whether we still want him there, or is it you who don't want him? You brought him for us. The moment the National Police Service employs a police officer, it is not for the National Police Service. It is for the people. You go down to serve people. So the chairman of National Police Service cannot say, I'm the chair and I don't want this police officer, remove him. No, there's a procedure. So the moment the president appointed Gachagua, his duty was finished. He drew him to people. And the people had a choice to say, you have Gachagua, we are not going to elect you. But they said, you have Gachagua, we are going to elect you. So that voice of the people must be listened to. And that is where the whole issue of public participation is coming in. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a judge, but I have some clue, I have some knowledge about how the law should be followed. If court pronounced itself and gave orders on what to be done, okay, and you never did it, now, how do you go there and pray for other orders? Yet the ones which are in place you have not implemented. God does not work like that. You want the orders to be given to you, first obey the one which you are given. Then you come for another one. But if you disregard the one which you are given, why do you want another one?
Mheshimiwa Daniel, what caused the rift between, from an outsider perspective when you started out, and then now, of course, you've seen the dalliance between the former opposition leader and government. What caused the rift between the DP and his president?
I think if I answer that question, I'll be speculative, because you never really know what happens when two individuals come together. But broadly speaking, and from where we sit, we think that the deputy president was demanding too much in terms of positions, in terms of budgetary allocation to the Mount Kenya region and its environs. And I think the president found it untenable that you cannot satisfy one person at the expense of the whole nation. This is what we think. Some people have argued that it could have been business interests that he was pushing. And as I say, this is purely speculative.
Yes.
But let me say this, listening to Mheshimiwa Gakuya, let me admit that this trial and impeachment of the deputy president has galvanized the Mount Kenya vote to unprecedented levels. I happen to come from Nakuru. I have interest in Nakuru, and I was in Nakuru recently. And you can see that the people are now, for the first time, identifying very well with the deputy president. And they are looking at it more like a betrayal. In fact, many of them may not have voted for him. So going forward, I foresee a very difficult challenge for His Excellency the President in filling that position, in picking someone who may palpate the Central Kenya people. I'm even more worried because yesterday, a colleague of mine, Honorable Kirima, member for Central Imenti, came out guns blazing and saying that he suspects that the president, contrary to their belief, was going to appoint somebody else and not CS Kindiki. Now, if that happens, then again, the Meru vote will live and galvanize around the deputy president. So it's a very dicey situation, politically, I would say. It is very difficult to pick one of the many princes. When you're a king and you have got 10 princes, it's very difficult to pick one and leave the others and explain to them why you picked this one and not this one. So even Mheshimiwa Gachagua, as he sits here, he knows very well that politically they are now getting their votes together. And whether the deputy president leaves or not, he's going to be a factor.
Okay.
In fact, this process has made him kingmaker of the Mount Kenya region. Whether we like it or not, we may not like it, but that is how it is. When you listen to people in Embakasi, Central Kenya, Nairobi, Nakuru, you realize that he's now going to decide, in as far as Mount Kenya region is concerned, largely the political path that this community will take.
Yeah.
But having listened to my colleagues also, let me say that the Constitution contemplates clear separation of powers. And going by yesterday's Senate hearing of the impeachment of Governor of Kericho, I think the Senate is a reasonable house. And Mheshimiwa Gachagua should not be worried. We are yet to listen to the evidence of the accusers. And so he should sit pretty and wait for the evidence to be tabled tomorrow. Because I believe the senators are reasonable men and women, and they will come up with the right verdict.
Okay.
If they're not satisfied, then they still have the third level, which is the courts of law, which I believe are the best institutions to safeguard political and other interests. Okay. Our courts are known to be very fair. At least they've been fair in the past. So I don't see why Mheshimiwa Gachagua and his friend, the deputy president, should be concerned. They should wait for this process to go on in Senate tomorrow. Let us listen to the evidence. Let us look at it. Then after that, whatever the outcome, if they're not satisfied, then we go to the courts and we wait and see.
Okay.
I think that is the best way to deal with this.
Mheshimiwa Gachagua, let me put you on the spot. So Mheshimiwa here says, Mheshimiwa Joe, that we could be being diverted from other issues, affecting the country. And on the public domain, it seems to be there is a rift between the deputy president and his boss, the president. Of the two, which holds water? And if there is indeed a rift, what would have caused it?
First and foremost, let me say that by the time, and we need to use our side millers and assess where we are coming from. And let us also consider that the current president went through the same path. And at the point when he was totally fought by his boss, he was safeguarded by the arms of the people. So the public received him, and he was able to lean on them. And that's how he found himself to be the first in command today. Let me say that the path was not a very good path, and that experience was not a very good experience. And today, I was not expecting that the president who have worked the same tight route can also take such a drastic route to his head. One, we have what we call parties. Our party has dispute resolution making organs. And the head of state, if at a point where he realized that there is a disagreement between the two, could have already mobilized that party organ to solve that matter in-housely. And I think there was nothing which was too red that could not have been resolved by the party. Number two, there were other also well-known organs of elders who can still also come in, listen the disputes, and bring them together. There is also an element of what we call the church fraternity. If things are too hard for you and your deputy, and you think that you have a reasonable case, I think bring that eminent team of church elders and the rest, tell them this is a position. If you really want for peace of a country and prosperity. But it's not be seen as a witch hunt kind of process where you have cast a die that you bring in broad-based government so that you bring in numbers to exit your deputy, whom help you at the hour of need. It is important to remember a small thing that a friend has done to you in your journey. Today, William could not be the head of the state. Raila Odinga never participated anywhere in his coming to power. And therefore, is it so hard for you to find a mechanism to deal with a disconnection with your deputy, whom has supported you with his team to find you to where you are? I think as a human being, I think that there are some stages where before we arrive to impeachment process, we could the president could have initiated. But to the look of the thing is that he was fed up and he made up his mind and he was of the opinion now, let this battle move on this direction. And at the point where it is, I believe that in fact, the handle is already on course. The National Assembly has already made its case. We will wait the Senate also to make their case. And then we wait for the judiciary to make their determination. And then going forward, we would like to see if judiciary pronounced itself to a constitutional order where things will be taken to shape. We would like to see this country not going to a banana republic where the court will be respected. Otherwise, it is not the high time that we must kill the democratic space that we have fought for, and where we have lost our giants politically fighting for this particular order of the day. And I hope the president still has a room, because nobody else has a room. He's only the head of state. At this point, he can initiate a particular way of reconciliation. At this point, if his mind is opened beyond considering the exit of his deputy.
Okay.
Yes. I hope that in fact it is not that this particular deputy president has been totally wrong, that it was not reconcilable.
Mheshimiwa Joe, you had mentioned, the diversion. The same question to you that I put to Mheshimiwa Gachagua. What diversions would they be? You alluded to that. And in the event there is a rift between a head of state and his deputy, what options would be able to happen in-house before you even bring it to the fore, that assuming you two are head of state and his deputy, that you and Honorable Gachagua are disagreeing? Do you have to bring it to the fore of the public in as much as they're the ones who voted you in answering those two questions?
Before I answer those two questions,
yes,
I'm finding myself in a very difficult position here. One, I have Mheshimiwa Maduku here, who is a very good friend of mine. I knew him before he even joined politics, when he was in civil service.
Okay.
service. So it's a very good friend. And one thing I want to restrain myself is contradict him in national television. But because we are here to put things straight, you will excuse me and contradict him. Because when I listen to him and he says, Senate is a fair house, that's a very dangerous speech from an honorable member who sits in a National Assembly where a determination has been done. And you tell Kenyans, we have done this, but there is another fair house there. Go there. So what does that mean?
No, I didn't say that wrong.
That means, you know, once it comes out,
I'm just saying
people will analyze it the way I am. I am analyzing the statement of Mr. Mheshimiwa Maduku. So there's a fair house. He said that. I would not have said there's a fair house. I would say there's another house. Our opinion can be different from ours. Yeah. All right?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to correct him. Again, on my right, I have Mheshimiwa Gachagua here, who says we have political parties which can make decisions. That is how it's supposed to be. But what is the truth in our country today, Mheshimiwa? We don't have political parties. We have personal properties of people. UDA is not your party. It's a property of one person who does with it whatever he thinks. ODM is not a political party of people to make decisions. It is one person to make a decision. Wiper is not a political party. It's for the members to make a decision. It's for the person who is at top to make a decision. And so many other parties. That's what they do in our country. Democracy is not exercised when it comes to political parties in Kenya. Not like in South Africa, whereby now members of the ANC would sit down and say, our president is misbehaving and we are going to replace him. And it so happens. It happens like that in South Africa. And even in other countries, it happens like that. But coming back to your question, what could, or other issues? This government has spent 1 year trying to recover its losses. Losses in terms of how to manage the country and how to manage themselves, and how to come back from the election cost, right? And that's why, and I can tell you from where I sit, because beside being a politician, I am a businessman. Yes. And I understand what happens and which sector in this country makes money for private people, all right, who align themselves with the government. And there are sectors which we are not talking about. We are only busy running after Gachagua and Adani, but there are other issues which Kenyans, they don't know. If I ask you, who is making money in the sugar industry? Do you know sugar industry is bigger than Adani? Do you know petroleum or oil industry is bigger than Adani? Do you know maize industry is bigger than Adani? Do you know fertilizer is bigger than Adani? Who is controlling all those and who is talking? Nobody. And because you have to be made busy, not to think about all these things. Who is making money in the power sector? Who is making money? Have you ever asked yourself those questions as Kenyans? And if you are not aligned, let me tell you, how many people lost businesses who are in the petroleum sector when the government said they have, what do you call it, the government deal with the
government to government.
Government to government. How many Kenyans lost business? How many? But because people are not supposed to talk about it, so you must be given something to talk about. And here comes Gachagua. All right? Two, the reason why President does not want Gachagua, it is because Gachagua proved himself to have a base. You know, when he was electing him, he had no base. He was just a one-time MP like Mutambu. All right? There was no difference between Mutambu and Gachagua. Actually, I'm senior than Gachagua in politics. All right? So when he got him, Gachagua started doing something. And what Gachagua missed is to read that book of 48 Laws of Power, whereby there are some things you don't do to your master. It doesn't matter what you are doing. And that is the problem between Gachagua and Ruto. Forget about the businesses they are fighting. Forget about who likes Gachagua or who doesn't like him. Gachagua tried to do what President Ruto did. And the Ruto saw, you know, I came to power through this road. And Gachagua now has taken that road. He's going to remove me from power in 2027. And nobody will accept that as a politician. So I see where Ruto is coming from, because he is a master, he is a student of what Gachagua is trying to do. So you are trying to take his skills to come and fight him. Because Ruto knew the moment he ascended to power, there are some certain things he did. One, he neglected the people who elected him. And that was a menace for Ruto. Two, he started fighting with the churches who propelled him to the... So he knew that he has lost Mount Kenya, he has lost the churches, he has lost so many friends like Motambo and the rest. So Ruto was like, now if I let this man start uniting these people, my chances 2027 will be doomed. And that is exactly what is happening today. They may quarrel about a deal here or there, okay? And Ruto, being a smart person, he said, I need somebody to support me on this Adan deal. And he looked around, he said, the only person with the big mouth, the person who can be listened to all Kenyans, is none other than Raila Amolo Odinga, a man who can call a public holiday when there is none. He brought him in. And he brought him, including Madugu, despite that he is a very sober member of parliament, a very straightforward-thinking person. But you know what? There's something in Raila people don't know. Raila is a spirit. What I cannot tell you is whether it's a good or bad spirit. Okay. But Raila is a spirit. Yes. The moment he touches you like this, my friend, you will not go nowhere. You will sing his song. You will dance to his song. And that is what is happening today. And go back to history. Okay. Raila touched Moi. Moi never wanted to hear anything to do with Saitoti. He came back. He touched Kibaki. We created an office which was not there for a prime minister, which was not in the constitution. We created and they gave him. He came back again, he touched Uhuru. Uhuru never wanted to hear anything to do with Ruto. Now he has touched Ruto. Ruto don't want to hear Gachagua. So this is a spirit. What I don't know is whether it's a good one or a bad one. Okay. Now he touches a very sober and brilliant person like Madugu. Okay? Now Madugu is going to 40 years because Baba said. Have you been touched? Yes, no, DM, we cannot deny it.
Honorable John Mutambo is implying that I'm demon possessed.
No. I said good or bad. I did not say whether he's a bad person, but he is a spirit.
I keep saying again, in all these things, the underlying factor, and largely the determining factor, is politics. And I say it as the Orange Democratic Movement. We agreed to support William Ruto. And so in casting that vote, besides anything else, the biggest consideration was the party position. And if you can see, ODM members who are present in the House either voted yes or tactfully avoided being in the House. And that is what happened. So Joe Mutambu calling my party leader a spirit. Is not right.
A good one. Maybe a good spirit.
Let's move the discussion. Let's move the discussion forward to the, you brought about the issue of replacement, what you saw in Mary yesterday. And let's just have a prelude of, the possible replacements, the conversations we are seeing, especially from various quarters, on the possible replacement of the DP should he be impeached.
As Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua fights for survival in courts, a section of leaders are lobbying to replace him should he be impeached by Senate on Thursday this week.
We are not settling any political scores. What we are doing is holding people to account. We are holding people accountable. Part of the reason why President William Ruto did ask both the National Assembly and Senate or Parliament to amend even our standing orders to bring cabinet secretaries to answer to questions and statements from the public through their elected representatives was to hold cabinet secretaries and everybody in cabinet accountable.
Imenti Central MP Moses Kerema says the Mount Kenya East Bloc will accept nothing short of Professor Kindiki Kithure as a replacement for DP Gachagua should he be impeached.
I had no idea, and I didn't have that rumor that it's Kindiki who is supposed to be the deputy president. If it's not Kindiki, I could not have voted out Gachagua.
Kerema arguing that Kindiki was second after Gachagua in the 2022 race for Ruto's running mate.
We believed as Meru MPs that number 2 is supposed to take that place of number 1. So we signed, but from the time we passed that impeachment, things are not as they were. There is a lot of lobbying from various sectors of societies.
In recent polls, Professor Kindiki has been fronted as the highest favored for the job. But from the Mount Kenya region, Murang'a Governor Irongo Kang'ata has been named as a possible candidate but has denied the allegations. Sources indicate that Kang'ata is one of those warming up for the seat. Others include Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, who is serving her second term. Waiguru has already set up a website that describes her achievements in politics. Sources within Western Region faction told TV47 that leaders from the region are also lobbying for the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, having served as Kenya's vice president previously. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi was better placed to take over according to those lobbying for his consideration. Reports from Raila Odinga's faction indicate that Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga has been fronted to replace Gachagua in Ruto's efforts to regain Nyanza region trust. Wanga is an influential factor in the larger Nyanza region, having been elevated to be ODM party national chairperson. President William Ruto's decision will also be determined by respective leaders' influence within their region, even as he tries to solidify his bases across the country for 2027 bid. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mike, for that. When you look at this jostling for names, and I'll begin with you, Mheshimiwa Daniel, the possible replacement, it is no longer a Mount Kenya issue. First of all, where does this leave the mountain? And should the president go back to this same mountain? Should the Senate go ahead and impeach the DP? Should he go back to the mountain? Who would be a possible replacement? And what's the game of numbers here?
I think, in my opinion, now that the position of deputy president belonged to Mount Kenya and specifically to the Kikuyu Nation, if the deputy president is impeached, the right thing, in my opinion, would be to pick somebody from the Mount Kenya region, at least to appease them and show them that this was not intended to hurt the mountain. But having said that, I also think that this position, if given to Mount Kenya, will be a poisoned chalice. Because any Kikuyu person taking this position will be seen as a betrayer. That is a narrative that the deputy president has managed to sell in the mountain. And so he will not galvanize the numbers required. And so it's a very difficult position for the president right now, should he decide to give it to the Kikuyu Nation. Now, should he give it to any other person, then it will be seen as total betrayal politically. But then it is his prerogative, should the deputy president be impeached, to bring a name within 14 days to the National Assembly, which should vote within 60 days of appointments. Now, we in ODM are also expecting to reap from this. We did not just vote to get nothing out of this. And so, should he give this position to the mountain, then he should also favorably and handsomely reward the Orange Democratic Movement. And that is where we say it is possible that even Gladys Wanga can make an excellent deputy president, because then he'll be assured of the numbers from the ODM fraternity, which will replace the so-called mountain numbers that they keep talking about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mheshimiwa Gakuya, you talked about the broad-based government. For a government that has, brought in people who are ordinarily or initially outsiders, should the mountain be worried that this could not be coming back to them?
One is that as much as there is a feeling that the community of Mount Kenya will be left the cold in future politics. It's important to be very clear that even during Moi, this community survived for 24 years, and they survived. And there was a saying that the donkey, the horse should wait for the donkey to come. It never happened. Even today, you may think that you have finished that community politically, but you still need them economically. Yes, you need them like yesterday. And let me tell you, there is a way that, in fact, this community has hold various big stake of economic growth. And I think as wise men, you must ask yourself, is this the right time to shoot these people? I think because at this point in time, I did allude that the holder of the mantle of the head of state is the only person who has a button to stop this process or make it to accomplish. At this point in time, he must done his political arithmetic. He must calculated all angles. And he has just maybe arrived to a decision that even though at a point where I may have to lose the whole mountain, I have a replacement. And I think that is where the ideology of broad-based government came in. But what I would say is, yes, as much the broad-based government will give you the warmth you want, will also give you a re-election, it's fine. But as much as you have said broad-based, Mount Kenya must be part of the broad. How can you expel them out of the broad? So there is no single day that, in fact, even the embattled Gachagua has alluded to exiting from the government. It's only that there is a political fear that his force may, at a point, culminate to walking out. Oh. But he has never uttered a word toward that direction. I will still think that, in fact, there is time to reconcile. But I can tell you that even though to substitute any single other human being with Gachagua, they will not be in peace. Otherwise, they will not be settled of that. And I'm not the one saying, but you have heard from their voices, and they have just talked loudly. And if you have to hear the crowd, or you have to listen the voice of the people, I think the people have already spoken. And at this particular time, the borough is at the head of state to determine whether the process should go on. And as of this moment, politically, I am sure the head of state is wise enough. He cannot, at this point in time of 3 years, take this position out of Mount Kenya. Just to see whether the temper will cool down. At the point when this particular position will exit from them is the running mate of the second term. That is, by 2027, if all mathematics feels that the Mount Kenya has rebelled, then he will make a different choice. And he will substitute whoever we will pick today for that particular replacement. But personally, I am persuaded that this process will die.
Mheshimiwa Mutambu, where should the president start looking for a party that initially decisions were being made around the party, whereas he also defended the choice for running mate, and he did say Rigathi Gachagua at the time is a man who is concerned about mwananchi interests. What would then he go back to tell the party? The reason Gachagua was discarded if he is impeached was this, and the reason I have chosen this one, which would be also an unpopular opinion, going by the precedents that he set before 2022, there is also the issue of broad-based. Where should the president be looking for a new number 2 if the current one is impeached?
First and foremost, when you say, what will the president tell the party? Which party? Which party?
The UDA party.
UDA is the president. So do you go and tell yourself something? You know what to do. Go back.
Do you still have a party?
Go back to history.
No, the party is there.
The party is there, but who makes decision? You see, if it is the party making decision for everybody to abide to, then we could, we could go your route. But here, it is one person who says what to be done. Why are you not there when Wamushomba was saying, I heard it from Wamushomba, I heard it from, I don't know, another member, and someone else, who was saying, we were called at Karen by the then deputy president, now the president, to discuss and to vote about who will be the deputy. And they voted for one man, called Kindiki. He got, I don't know how many votes. against Gachagua. But there's a writer, they are saying the president wanted Gachagua. That's how Gachagua came in, because the president wanted him. Now, today, the president does not want him. But mathematics is solved. So Gachagua, you are nowhere. And I don't want people to think that there is another thing coming through the president. It is done and dusted between Gachagua and Ruto. That relationship is no longer there. It's gone. All right? Even if the courts bring him back, they will have no chemistry. It's done, finished. That's what Kenyans need to understand and for us to move. Even Mount Kenya need to understand that Ruto and Gachagua is finished. Now coming to finding his replacement. This is where now the politics comes in, right? And we are dealing with a very good political master called William Ruto. He understands very well that the mountain is gone, with or without Gachagua. Even if I put him there, people will not vote for me 2027. Mountain will not vote for Ruto. Again, even if I take another person from that place, it is still a waste of time. They are gone. All right? And this is where now the question of Kindiki comes in. The only remedy he can have is to have the eastern part of mountain, which is Meru, Tharaka, and Embu, by bringing in Kindiki. Then, because he is a political master, he'll take how much vote do I get from Tharaka Nithi? What is the total registered vote from Tharaka Nithi? 300 or so? Ruto knows that. How many from Embu? This much. How many from Meru? This much. He will put them down. How many? What percentage will I get? Say 50% even if I give Kindiki. So what is the total? 700-800? As opposed to going to Western, where I will get to Nyanza, where I will get a block, including Maduku will vote for me. So I'll go that route. If I go to Western, I'm likely to get 2.7 million as opposed to 8. So this is mathematical chairs. We have to do the arithmetics. And that is exactly what Ruto will do, for him to determine who will become the next deputy. And the decision will not be made by Ruto alone. The decision will be made by two people. One is William Samoei Ruto. Second is Raila Amolo Odinga. Whether we likes it or not, whether Kagura likes it or not, whether Mount Kenya likes it, Raila Amolo Odinga will play a very big role in making the next deputy president. And we have heard it from Ruto himself. There was a forum where Ruto was addressing and he told Junet, you know, Junet, now you've been used to be in opposition. Now, going forward, we want to leave that opposition seat to other people. Which other people was he referring to? And he told Junet he will be now in the government. He will not be in government in opposition going forward. That was a clear message. To those who listen to what people are not saying, they will understand what Ruto was saying. And for me, I can get it. That Ruto was telling people or Kenyans, going forward, my alignment is with the ODM, with Nyanza and Western people, and the rest, Ukambani people can stay with your Kalonzo, no problem. Mount Kenya, you can stay with your Gachagua, there is no problem. But I have new found friends whom I'm going to move forward with. And let me tell Kenyans this, and allow me. Because people have been crying that Ruto is a bad person and he need to exit. And they have been singing Ruto must go. I want to tell them, because Kenyans are not careful and they are not keen and they are not serious. All right? Kenyans, they are not serious. Many of Kenyans who have a different opinion, they only make noise on television like Mutambo here. They make noise on funerals. They make noise out there. And we have seasoned politicians, Akina Onyonka, Akina Nani. We have all those people. What I want to tell them is this. One, the church is not happy. And if church is not careful, it will be one person who will be determining when, how, and where to pray. Because you will be the next president again, whether you like it or not, because you are not careful. So I want to invite the churches. Leave alone your denomination, whether you are Catholic, you are IC, you are what, you are Protestant, you are Muslim. I want to invite them behind the tent and have a talk. I want to invite those Kenyans who feel that something needs to be done and there must be a change in this country behind the tent and have a talk. But the moment we do it on these televisions and we do it on the Sundays and church, the government want to gang the church, and you will only say that and it ends there. And tomorrow, because there's a party position which mandates Manduk to vote on this direction, they will vote on that bill of the church. And because the numbers are there, the churches will be controlled by the government and there's nothing the church will do.
Okay.
The president today, come 2027, with these arrangements, he will come back to power and nothing Mutambu, Onyoga, Sifuna, I don't know who will have a different opinion will do unless we meet behind the tent.
Let's enter the home stretch of this conversation.
Yes.
So whichever possible replacement there is, we've seen the names being flaunted, Gladys Wanga, Kithure Kindiki, Anne Waiguru, whomsoever would take over after Gachagua, or even by chance if Gachagua remains. What is the president trying to communicate in terms of his deputy and how his deputy should be?
You see, if you read the 48 laws of power, and Mheshimiwa Mutambu has alluded to it, there are certain qualities that a deputy should always possess. And one of the qualities is to be subservient. Never outshine your masters. It is not normally said, but it is there in the political arena. As a deputy and a principal assistant, you are supposed to be there to be seen. You are there to be seen, not to be heard. And that is, I think, the mistake or the problem that our deputy president, regarding Gachagua, had. That he forgot he was a principal assistant and he thought he was a co-president and started galvanizing support in his Mount region. Now, a deputy president should be more working type. And in history, we can see them. The best example was Daniel Arap Moi. A deputy president should also be somebody who must hide his political ambition. Moi did it very well. And so, going forward, I think the next deputy president should just know that he's a principal assistant. And that is what is defined in the Constitution. Going out and trying to create a political constituency, especially in the region you come from, or even nationally, is not tenable. But also, and I want to ask this question, His Excellency William Ruto was a deputy president, but no motion of impeachment was brought to Parliament. Why? Because throughout his tenure, he ensured that he had the support of the members of Parliament. In fact, if a motion was ever brought to the National Assembly, it would fall flat on its face. Enter Deputy President Gachagua, and only 44 members were able to come to his side. And you ask yourself, what could be the problem? Or what was the problem? Deputy President, you must have support of members of Parliament, whether in the National Assembly or in the Senate, for whatever reason. You must be accessible. You must be somebody who is willing to listen to members. Because members represent people. You must be somebody who is not on a pedestal. And I think these are some of the problems when I hear my colleagues talk that bedeviled His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua. Personally, I didn't go to his office, but those who went say that they were turned away. And members of Parliament are used to walking into offices, whether in the executive or even in the legislature, without, bureaucracy. Because they believe that when they come to your office, they're coming to discuss matters that affect their people. Even on the floor of the House, I could hear members giving their accounts of how unresponsive His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua has been to members' personal and constituency concerns. So going forward, I hope that the next DP will be someone who can work with members of parliament. Otherwise, now we know how to impeach the deputy president.
All right. Thank you so much. Your closing remarks, Mheshimiwa Gachagua, before you come to him. Should the Senate save the current DP? Should he behave? How would he behave? Should he continue to galvanize his political constituency, or should he tone down? And his replacement, how would they be?
I just want to conclude by saying that the authors of the Constitution, giving the clear mandate of the final say in hammering the final nail to the death nail of political of impeachment of either the governor, the president, the deputy. I think at this point in time, what we expect is that they will be able to internalize the evidence tabled through them. Because here, they are like the judges. And they will be able to listen the prosecutor, who is prosecuting this case, who is none other but now the National Assembly. And then the defense, from now the accused. And I think out of office, because here there is 11 points of allegations. And the law is very clear. If 1 point finds you guilty, then you are guilty of the whole charge. And in this case, the wisdom is back to them. They live in this country. They understand the tempers outside there. And their determination will put this country to another level. So I hope that, in fact, their sobriety will consider whatever matter is at their disposal.
Yes.
And it is within their jurisdiction to make the best determination after listening and perusing and getting convinced that the allegations are of the mighty to exit the deputy president, or whether the allegations has not that weight to take that direction. So I will leave everything to their wisdom to determine for the country.
All right. Mheshimiwa, you get the last word. Should Gachagua, if impeached, if saved by Senate, how should he conduct himself? His possible replacement, if he's impeached, how would they need to conduct themselves?
For Gachagua, whether impeached, if he's saved, I said here and I'm going to repeat, he will still remain a shell with no influence. So it doesn't matter whether he changes or not. He has already done the damage. Let me tell you, Gachagua dug his own grave. He's the one who dug his own grave by not finding a way of embracing leaders, like what Mheshimiwa Madugu is saying, that he dismissed everybody, even the members of parliament. He did not want to associate himself with the members of parliament. And those are the people he needed most, right? And I can tell you this, not only the members of parliament, even former members of parliament, including me, he was not entertaining. I remember one day, we went to his office as Kamba leaders, and we were there with Mheshimiwa Sonko. And what did he do? He chased Sonko out of that meeting. He called him and he told him, walk out. It's very unfortunate. He told him, no, this is not your meeting. And it was a Kamba forum. So he selected who to sit in that meeting and who not to sit. That is one grave mistake Gachagua was doing. Let me tell you, when this government came into power, I fought for it. And I gave Ruto more than about 10 to 11,000 votes from Mwingi Central. And I'm proud of that because I support it. If it were for Ruto, today I would be still serving as a chairman of a parastatal. But because Gachagua never wanted anybody who was associated with the other government, they called me a Kibicho friend, a friend to Uhuru Kenyatta. And I was fired the following morning without even thinking what was my contribution to the government. So this is Gachagua. He has dug his own grave. Even if he comes back, he will have nothing, but he will remain a shell with only bodyguards and office and no influence whatsoever in this government. right? So the other one who comes, he has to learn from these two. What happened with the Ruto and Uhuru, so that they part ways. What happened with the Gachagua and the Ruto. Then, if you come in, you have to read between those lines. Then you see how to behave yourself to the leaders, to the people who elected you, to your boss. It's also very important, because you cannot antagonize your boss simply because you have support from the ground. You have to balance them. And if you don't have that wisdom, you better not accept the seat. Just decline it. All right? Because you will get in there and you will be impeached tomorrow. We'll have another impeachment coming through. If you don't get you don't align yourself with your boss, you don't align yourself with the leaders, including members of parliament, including including those who hold public opinion, including the people who supported you. If you do not align yourself with that, let me tell you, you will be impeached the following day. If not even members of parliament, the leaders outside, they will push for your impeachment. But going forward,
yes,
this country is a peaceful, loving country. And this action of removing Gachagua, it will divide this nation. Take it from me. It will, people talk of regions. There is one region I will not ignore in my political endeavors, called Mount Kenya region. You cannot ignore that region. You cannot as well ignore Nyanza, and you cannot ignore Western. You cannot ignore Eastern. Those are regions you cannot ignore. The moment you ignore them or ignore those regions, then you will have a problem in your leadership. And they can cause chaos in this country. If today Mount Kenya revolt and they say, we want Gachagua back, and they start aggressively pushing for it, what will happen in this country is something which we have never seen before. And we would not wish to go that direction. If I were Ruto, I would have thought of that before I even make a move of impeaching Gachagua. I would have thought, what is the reaction of people of Mount Kenya, and what spiral impact will this move do to our country? Because these are the economic drivers. Let me tell you, as Gachagua is saying, Mount Kenya are the economic drivers of this country. We cannot, Mugala muwe, aki yake mupe. That is how it is in this country. So I will respect that region and make a decision wisely, because I know the position Mount Kenya owed in this country and what contribution they have, either politically or economically, even socially.
Okay.
Because a decision from that side can make a lot of problems to this country. But I wish and I want to urge the people of Mount Kenya, it is not lost. If we are fighting for a deputy president, forget about the deputy president, compose yourself, fight for the presidency.
Okay, indeed. That is where we wind up the State of the Nation this morning. We've been speaking to Daniel Manduku, the Member of Parliament, Nyaribari Masaba. In the middle has been Joe Mutambu, former MP, Mwingi Central. Last but not least, James Gakuya, MP, Embakasi North. My name is George Maringa. Thank you so much.